A demon falls in love with the most innocent angel in the school. A stunning woman captures the attention of a young man with her blonde, shining hair. Her red eyes convey certain disinterest. Her nose is thin and well-shaped, and her lips are the color of a cherry blossom. And it was in that moment that the young man realized, once and for all, that something was about to change their lives forever. It's May, where classmates gossip that a transfer student is arriving at school today. The girls are hopeful that the guy is handsome, while the boys find it strange that this is happening in the middle of the school year. Thus, the principal summons Masatora Akutsu to the classroom, and with tears in his eyes, he witnesses the class's astonishment as they lay eyes on the new guy who, despite being 16 years old, looks like a Dragon Ball Frieza who has been working in a warehouse for 25 years. Aware of the new student's condition, the principal explains that he didn't like having his head shaved and, by mistake, used his father's hair removal cream, thinking it was a hair tonic. As a fellow sufferer of baldness, the principal empathizes with the young man's plight. Next, he asks Akutsu to introduce himself, and with the confidence of an abandoned baby rat, he says, with the rhythmic cadence of death, that his hobby is strolling through pharmacies, and his favorite words are hair follicle. Finally, he vents that his recent days haven't been easy, but he hopes to make beautiful memories with everyone present. At this moment, the room becomes a sob fest followed by applause, and while all the students shout words of encouragement to the boy, inside he laughs at how pathetic humans are since none of them uncovered such a ridiculous lie. However, at that moment, the principal sees a tag coming out of the boy's head and pulls it without thinking, causing a wig to fall to the ground. Thus, the real Akutsu appears as if nothing had happened, conducted by an angelic background symphony, while the principal chides him for pulling a fast one on him. Seeing this aggressive reaction, Akutsu explains that his hair miraculously grew, and he plucks several tufts of hair to feign confusion, cursing his hair follicles, and the room glitches with that situation. However, soon the spirits calm down and the school official asks the class to treat their new classmate well. When pointed to his seat in the room, Akutsu walks to the chair while being absolutely certain that no one suspects his true identity. In the midst of this, he is enchanted by the cuteness of a girl in the background, never imagining that a human could be so beautiful. In response to admiring looks, the girl returns a slight smile, causing Akutsu to awaken the bittersweet emotion of passion in his chest. With this, he loses rationality and control over his body, ending the journey to his seat with a broken neck style. Hours later, the boy is still distraught, and without taking his eyes off his beloved, he imagines how perfect his life would be if he had such an innocent and lovable creature by his side. He goes further, fantasizing in his head moments together with his beloved, like gaming in the dead of night, where she finally feels ready for other things. These fantasies evoke intense emotions in the young man, but he figures he can't just approach the girl outright since they barely know each other, and that could end up pushing her away. At this moment, another guy approaches the girl, calling her Lily and commenting on the pleasant breeze in this early spring. This romantic atmosphere always makes him think of her. Therefore, it would be great if they started dating. However, Lily uses her cattle scare ability, deflecting all the poor guy's advances. He panics and pleads for her to at least consider the proposal. Witnessing this humiliation, Yuba Tanagawa introduces himself to the new student and apologizes for the trouble the emotional guy, Hirota, is causing. He explains that Hirota has always been like this, declaring his love for any cute girl he encounters along the way, but lately, he seems a bit obsessed with Lily. And speaking of the devil, Hirota joins the group, mentioning that he got kicked out again, and everyone heads to the hallway to catch up. Outside, Hirota talks about how Akutsu's presentation scared the class a bit, but anything he wants to know, just ask. Seizing the opportunity, Akutsu asks who the blonde girl at the back of the room is. Hirota explains that she's Lilia Main, and she transferred to this school just before Akutsu. She's a Japanese mixed race and a Kikoku Shijo, Japanese who have always studied abroad until returning. Inside, Lily accepts a friend's invitation to prepare for today's piano exam, while Akutsu can't help but think about how short, cute, intelligent, and with a great personality she is, almost like more than human. Hearing this, Hirota raises his finger and suggests that Akutsu meant to say she looks like an angel. However, just hearing that word, the new student shows strong irritation, surprising his new friends. But as Akutsu is fascinated by the blonde girl, Hirota makes it clear that he will need to tank this decision since he himself has been kicked 5 times. In the first few attempts, he tried to ask calmly and politely, but as he was rejected, he started to appeal desperately, literally begging the girl to be with him. The problem is that he doesn't give up and continues humiliating himself for her attention. Therefore, the man with an unstoppable libido tries to approach Lily again, while Tanagawa holds him back, and Akutsu is impressed by how Lilia Main arouses people around her. Over time, the protagonist is heading home, devising a plan to get closer to his crush until fate makes them bump into each other on some random corner. The girl came out of a dark alley, saying she got lost and ran into Akutsu. He realizes that this is a great opportunity to talk to her for the first time, so frying his brain to think of what to say, he says hi and mentions that his name is Akatsu. He immediately curses himself inside since it's obvious that the girl already knows that, but she finds the guy's attitude amusing and introduces herself, extending her hand to him. During the greeting, Akatsu notices that Lily's sleeve is torn, and when he mentions it, Amain becomes extremely uncomfortable and tries to avoid the subject until she emphasizes that their meeting this way was fate's doing, and only that cool tea could celebrate this event properly. The sweet words of his beloved hit his heart hard, but he keeps his focus and accepts the invitation with an experienced pose. Soon, the two are walking together, and after discovering that both their parents live abroad, Lily comments on how difficult it must be for a man to live alone, as dishes don't wash themselves and no washing machine usually picks up clothes from the room. But Akatsu is a functional guy and claims he takes care of all the household chores, so Lily makes it clear that any day he could invite her to prove he's telling the truth. The girl gets distracted, crosses the street without looking properly, until a truck speeds by and threatens to run her over. Trying to save Lily, Akatsu's eyes morph into a demonic expression and he stops the truck with the strength of his muscles, leaving Lily frightened by the marks on Akatsu's face. However, inexplicably, at that moment she lets out a brief smile. Around the accident, people begin to gather and call an ambulance, but instead of staying there, Lily pulls her friend by the arm and takes him away. In a late afternoon square, he says the pain in his shoulder is gone and Lily apologizes for causing all this confusion. As the boy replies that she didn't need to worry about it, Lily feels confident enough to ask who Akatsu really is because he stopped a truck with his shoulder and those ears and eyes aren't exactly human. At that moment, Akatsu enters a cosmic hell for having slipped up and revealed his identity so soon, but as the girl didn't seem to be reacting negatively to the possibility that he's not human, he decides that maybe he can share a secret or two. So he transforms part of his body and claims to be a demon who ended up in the human world because hell is losing a war against the angels. To try to reverse the situation, Akatsu's superior decided to appoint a charismatic leader to motivate the forces of hell, and Akatsu is responsible for trying to find this leader who will turn the game around. However, he hasn't found this leadership figure yet, but he would like Lily Amain to help him on this mission, occasionally descending to hell to accompany him in this search. Even though Lily is a bit scared to know that demons really exist, she saw that Akatsu, despite being one, could also be kind enough to save her life. Still, she doesn't know how she could help as she doesn't have anything special, and maybe the people on the other side would get angry with her for some reason. Akatsu tries to convince the girl that it has nothing to do with it, that no one could get angry with someone as lovely as her. At that moment, Lily justifies her reasoning by immobilizing the boy with a magical chain, surprising him. Astounded, he asks who this girl really is, and after mocking the fact that the guy thought he could seduce her, Lily Amain releases her wings and reveals herself to be a servant of heaven, an angel. She continues to mock the demon, explaining how foolish she was to invite an enemy to hell without even realizing it. Akatsu tries to free himself from the chains, but the angel tells the boy to forget it, as these chains were manifested by her and few angels have the talent. She has to create objects as resistant as she can. Nervous for having faced two demons in one day, she decides to poke the boy's eye with her finger as a form of torture. He doesn't understand why she mentioned two demons, so she explains that the tear in her sleeve was made by the demon she was defeating in the alley before meeting Akatsu. She let her guard down thinking the enemy couldn't touch her. But as he ruined Lily's clothes, she decided to humiliate the demon before exorcising him slowly. Speaking of which, now she needs to decide how to exorcise Akatsu. On the other hand, the young demon doesn't feel ashamed of being defeated by an enemy in a war. After all, he had the same intention as Lily. But as she humiliated one of his compatriots, and angels are known for acting in this cowardly way, Akatsu is willing to put this stupid angel in his place. He tears off the chains and prepares to teach Lily not to underestimate demons. Although he demonstrated strength by freeing himself, Akatsu's attacks didn't seem enough to hit Lily, as the angel could easily dodge all the attacks without much effort. Finally, still without a drop of sweat, she chains the enemy once again, but acknowledges that Akatsu is a level above the common demons she eliminated, so it will be a pity to exorcise someone like him. From this, Akatsu realized he had no way out, and as Lily summons a giant magical scythe, she asks the demon if he prefers to be erased now or if he reveals hell's plans and leaves alive. As the boy doesn't believe the angel will spare his life, she raises the scythe to exorcise the opponent. But when he opens his eyes again, Lily had changed her mind. Instead of finishing off the demon right there, she will keep the devil under her supervision and force him to collaborate with her work. If he agrees, he gets a special collar made by Amain herself. But the stubborn one still resists and asks why the girl wants to keep him as a doormat. She uses her charm again and responds that it's all to keep them close. Jokes aside, she explains that she will need him to get what she wants. She can't disclose all the details, but if he accepts, he'll be set free. Angels cannot lie, but it's up to the guy to trust her or not. In the worst-case scenario, he'll be lying on the ground until some ill-intentioned person takes a photo of him and shares it with the world. With that, he finally decides to cooperate, but before releasing the devil, she shows that the collar talk wasn't a lie and tries to collar the guy, who resists like an angry pincher. He begs for mercy, but Lily makes it clear that she doesn't have mercy. She wraps the accessory around Akatsu's neck and threads the buckle through the hole, leaving the guy in a strange threshold between terror and satisfaction. Finally, Akatsu was under the control of the angel and couldn't return to hell as long as he was affected by the collar's effect. Therefore, Lily explains that Akatsu's role with his collar is to hunt other demons, which angers the boy as he has to pursue beings of his own kind. Lily finds it ironic that demons have a sense of camaraderie, but Akatsu reveals that they have a society with their own rules and not everyone would betray those who have done good to them. However, despite this discourse of civility, Lily was ignoring the boy and complaining about split ends in her hair. This audacity drives the kid crazy with rage, but when he tries to remove his collar, the angel reveals that only she can take the accessory off his neck, and she suppresses Akatsu's demonic powers. Moreover, she discloses his location in case he tries to escape and allows her to control his movements. Therefore, if the demon refuses to cooperate, she can punish him however she wants. Using this control over Akatsu's body, the angel makes the demon perform a ridiculous act, apologizing for the delay in understanding her demands. Inside, Akatsu is burning with anger, but that doesn't stop his body from bowing to the girl and even fetching water to quench her thirst. Later, Lily is already using the boy as a servant and perhaps feeling bad for being treated like a queen for nothing. She offers some retribution to the demon, asking if he wants anything. Promptly, the boy crouches in a quadruped position and mentions how his body aches from all this servitude. Lily asks if he wants a massage on his backside and can't express it properly, but Akatsu replies that just a step of her foot would be more than enough. With this news, Akatsu is screaming internally within his enslaved body. To seize the opportunity, Lily comments on how this peculiar desire is typical of demons, so she promises to fulfill the young man's wish. However, as she was practically about to step on him, she starts questioning if all of this is right and if the strange taste of that demon will escalate into madness, leading her angelic delicacy down an irreversible path. Despite everything, before any stepping occurs, a guard tries to stop the two minors who are engaging in improper acts in the middle of a public square, and they react by swiftly escaping. After evading the officer, Lily takes the chance to ask Akatsu once again if he still insists on not helping, especially after the commotion he caused in the square, warning him that next time she may worsen the punishments, even making him repeat that position without clothes. But Akatsu stands his ground and tells the angel to exorcise him already, but as much as she would love to, she still needs the demon for some personal plans. Therefore, Akatsu needs to think again and decide whether to cooperate or suffer the consequences. This final proposal makes the demon notice the girl's ability to say such horrible things with that cute face, so he decides to give in a bit to Lily, offering to disclose the location of any nearby demon since they can sense the presence of their kind. Lily accepts but shows the young man what will happen if he doesn't do it right. With this, Akatsu apologizes to his fellow demons and inwardly begs that no demon dares to set foot on Earth for a while. Therefore, Lily declares Akatsu as her servant, but not without any reward. Since he is providing services to an angel, Lily promises to reform the demon into a righteous, honest, and kind being. As Akatsu is not very excited about this prize, the angel rethinks what every young person reaching adulthood would like to receive, offering a hug for each mission accomplished by the demon. He freaks out and calls Lily a curse, and she quickly backs off, saying she was joking and can't believe how this pervert believes she was serious. But since Akatsu doesn't want anything at all, Lily decides to think about payment later. At that moment, the guard finally catches up with them, and the escape continues until definitively losing the pursuer. Later that day, Akatsu is exhausted from the strenuous day and falls on his bed, thinking about how the first day of school was a disaster, with that cursed angel and her collar nonsense. But speaking of it, Akatsu notices that the accessory had simply disappeared. Before he could reflect on the matter, Lily Amain sends numerous voice messages to the boy, saying a rap about how he may have left the collar, but the collar will never leave him. Therefore, Akatsu wonders how the heck this girl got his number, and Lily answers that question by text, explaining that she just took a little peek at the boy, realizing that she can even read his mind, it seems. And as if that wasn't enough, the collar left a permanent tattoo on the demon, and he didn't want to be seen with that nonsense in public, making Lily Amain ruin his dream of using the pool in peace. This was the last straw for the young demon, who decides to end this angel before she causes irreversible damage to hell. Meanwhile, Lily is communicating with someone, informing that today she found a beast-type demon who of course has already been exorcised. So yes, she's being cautious as always. After turning off her computer and admiring the moon, Lily boasts of finding a valuable demon among so many worthless ones, and that's why she can't exorcise him so easily. Once she masters the powers of this enemy, the entire heaven will notice her existence, and she will make everyone regret treating her that way. But for this to be a success, she needs to do exactly what Akatsu wants to do with Lily. At that moment, we go back to the day when Masatora Akatsu is informed by his superior that he will be sent to the human world. As he well knows, hell is suffering severe attacks from heaven, but instead of responding in kind, it seems that the demons are allowing the invasion to happen and practically admitting defeat. But this tragic situation cannot continue, so Akatsu must go up to Earth and find the most talented and charismatic leader the world has ever seen to reconnect the infernal forces under a single flag of an unquestionable figure. And this mission becomes increasingly necessary, and to prove her point, the superior shows a photo posted on the Angels' social media, where one of them humiliates a demon and makes it clear that the hunting season has begun. In another example, an image shows a demon forced to buy drinks with a fake ID, only to be exposed and have to run from the police. Then she explains the case of another devil who was forced to reveal the suspicious history of his browser. These disturbing images break the young devil's heart, who kneels on the ground in front of such horrendous wickedness. And it's far from over, considering that angels are sending more and more henchmen to the human realm. They will likely be formidable enemies for Akatsu, but this mission cannot fail under any circumstances because there is no other chance. In other words, Masatora Akatsu is Hell's last hope. So to accomplish the most difficult and important task in Hell's history, the one decides to gift the demon hero the weapon befitting the significance of this mission: a leather scalp prosthesis. With this in hand, Akatsu must use this artifact to gain the sympathy and trust of humans. However, despite being adequately instructed, Akatsu managed to mess everything up and still feels like a loser every time he looks in the mirror and sees that tattoo the angel placed on his neck. Nevertheless, the demon remains firm and certain that everything will end once he defeats Lily Amain. Until Akatsu unintentionally follows a program called Sweet Husband and Wife and unexpectedly gets an insight into a perfect strategy to defeat his arch-rival. So the next day, the guy goes to school with a confident and stylish pose, and his friends rush to see what's going on with him. Hirona comments that Akatsu's chin is even more pointed than yesterday, and it's unsettling to see. Despite the demon's visual makeover, Lily appears right behind him, attracting even more attention. Before turning to the angel, Akatsu remembers the plan he devised from the TV program. By binge-watching this series and reading numerous male fashion and beauty magazines, the demon learned to become as attractive as possible to seduce Lily Amain and make her bend to his will. Despite all this preparation, the girl was using the same strategy she learned on the TV show. So with her hair properly styled, shiny, and hydrated, Lily tries to charm Akatsu. But he doesn't lag behind and competes in beauty with the angel, who is amazed at the amount of glow that Kid is emitting. With both trying not to fall for each other, the initial duel is considered a draw. Shortly after, during math class, Lily returns an eraser that was on the floor to Akatsu, and a simple touch of his hand was enough for them to ignite again, starting a mortal duel for each other's hearts. Akatsu gains a slight advantage over his opponent, but Amain is smart and anticipates the adversary's move, landing a punch on his body. This was enough to disorient the demon, who falls face first into his chair with a fried brain. Lily boasts of her advantage, as she is 12,000 years more experienced than the young devil. But he doesn't give up and lovingly takes a loose hair strand from Lily's head. With this move, he manages to dodge a knockout hook and counter with a well-placed punch to Amain's stomach. His partial defeat enrages the angel, and signs that this Cold War was only just beginning become increasingly evident. A few hours later, Amain was tasked with taking a stack of papers to the faculty room, and since it was very heavy, the teacher suggested she ask a boy for help. And that was the opportunity to throw another charm at Akatsu, this time grabbing his sleeve. This time, the intensity of the blow was frightening, and with a fake hook, Amain hits the opponent's face with unbelievable force. However, he withstands the impact and rises again, getting close to the opponent and rolling up his sleeves to carry that heavy stack of papers. This trick exposes the muscles and veins of the guy's forearm, causing damage to Lily. Akatsu breaks Amain's guard with an uppercut and manages to hit her face with another punch, making her lose balance as well. The exchange was becoming increasingly balanced, and Lily noticed that this battle would not be as simple as she thought. After this first round of victories and defeats, both competitors are still confident in their success. So the days pass, and the intensity rises even more, with Akatsu unbuttoning his shirt collar and Lily countering with an ice cream attack. Both become more offensive and vulnerable, causing consistent damage to each other. But before declaring a draw, Lily Amain was sure that the final plan could work. Soon both are at the back of the classroom, practically exhausted, and the teacher invites the girl to write the answer to a math question on the board. She goes to the board, obsessed with the idea of bringing down her rival, and after answering the exercises, she returns to her seat, but before that, pretends to stumble and falls on Akatsu's chest. With this move, she puts the enemy in check, staggering from the force of the blow he took. Then Lily uses all of her cuteness to apologize in the sweetest way possible, and that was the opening to break through Akatsu's guard, sway in front of the man and throwing punch after punch at his body. The crowd around gets excited, and everyone seems certain of Amane's victory, but before the final blow, the teacher stops them and asks who they think they are to flirt in the middle of class. Thus, the round ends and no fighter claims victory, and aware of the opponent's strength, both fighters decide on a truce. A few days later, Lily is waiting for Akatsu for a date, and as soon as a hand pokes her from behind, the girl turns around ranting about the guy's hug. But instead of Akatsu, two unknown people with bizarre behavior are right behind the girl. The two goofballs claim to be bored, so they invite the girl to take a little stroll with them. Lily uses her charm to say she's already waiting for someone, but with that abandoned kitten face only she knows how to make. The two guys are enchanted by her cuteness and insist on having tea with the girl while her companion doesn't arrive. But right behind them is the mentioned demon, and he warns the two guys not to push too hard or she'll end up breaking, and that a girl is like a blade under a microscope. With these words, the duo realizes there's a really cool guy there, so amazing that he says the kind of poetic thing that nobody understands but must make sense. So Akatsu gives his girl the green pig bear, explaining that being late is part of a hero's nature. But Lily puts an end to that attitude by hitting him on the head with the plush, making the intruders run away in fear. Akatsu points out that it not only hurt, but Lily also left the plush squashed like a potato in a press. The angel asks if he wants to be part of the mashed potatoes. Then, Akatsu changes the focus and interrupts their walk, thoughtfully observing the girl like one of those ancient Greek statues. He notices that Lily is very well dressed, and she retorts that she doesn't usually go on dates, so she doesn't know the limits of this kind of thing. Akatsu continues analyzing the girl from top to bottom, and awkwardly, Lily Amane mutters quietly that this demon is quite perverted. From that moment on, he realizes he went a little too far and argues that he was just surprised as she's giving off that same lightness and grace vibe as always. At this moment, the girl grabs Akatsu by the collar and demands that he never touch on that subject again. Otherwise, while he's in class, during the break, or even using the bathroom, she will make him suffer the wrath of the angelic leash. And who knows, maybe in the morning, he'll wake up in an erotic scene between him and that bald math teacher. After leaving the poor guy on his knees with such a disgusting threat, she turns her back and talks about exorcising demons in the morning as if it were a walk in the park. This makes him remember that cooperating with this crazy girl is a huge betrayal, and if anyone finds out, he'll be screwed. Next, Akatsu asks where they're going now, and Lily points to a dog attack alert on the wall, stating that this epidemic might have some demon behind it. Since the municipality posted a map of incidents on the internet, Lily has the clues to find those responsible. Then the angel asks how far Akatsu can identify another demon. He informs her that he can detect the strongest ones from far away, as long as they're not hiding their own power to avoid being discovered. In other words, if she's looking for a weaker link, it'll have to get closer. For this reason, Lily comments that maybe this Akatsu guy is useless, leaving the boy infuriated with the insult. At that moment, he feels something strange but keeps quiet about it. Lily reminds him that it's not a good idea to deceive her if this is something, and Akatsu knows that well. Soon, they set out to search for any diabolical presence, but Akatsu doesn't perceive the presence of any demons. Hours later, the duo takes a break to eat, and Akatsu comments that the girl will end up becoming Laylee round if she keeps eating like that. So she shakes the boy while reminding him that he can't treat the savior of his life like that. However, at that moment, Akatsu feels a disturbing presence, and even though Lily suspects it's just an excuse to avoid getting scolded, they soon see Kensaku Hirota banging his head against the wall and lamenting the fact that his beloved is on a date with another guy. But before the poor guy suffers a head injury, the duo invites him to sit down and explains that it's not like that. So he calms down after hitting his forehead against the window 24 times. Lily says she was just showing the city to Akatsu, and Hirota warns that he could have done that too if he had asked. He tells the friend not to be so shy and to invite partners to hang out from time to time. Finally, he admits that he was feeling a little jealous of the two together in the diner, but it won't make him pull his hair out, as at that moment, he was having a cool date with a nice girl, and he just took a break to say hi to his friends. And speaking of the girl, Yuka Tanahashi enters the diner scolding Hirota because he left her waiting outside to chat with the others. To try to cut the heavy atmosphere, the guy introduces his classmates to his girlfriend. But as soon as Hirota mentions Lily Amane's name, Yuka comments that it's this shorty he keeps talking about all the time, and she thought she was still in middle school. This audacity sparks instant rage within the angel, but Lily keeps up appearances and replies that it's a pleasure to meet Yuka. The girl shrugs it off and maintains the same indifferent posture when Akatsu introduces himself. Then, Lily asks Hirota to tell who this charming girl is, and he introduces Yuka only as an old friend. In the same second, Yuka corrects him and claims to be his girlfriend, driving the boy crazy. Lily takes advantage of the situation to say that it's not very cool of him to have a girlfriend and keep hitting on her every now and then. Hearing this, Yuka explodes and drags her boyfriend out by the ear, demanding explanations for this story. Akatsu didn't think it was cool for Lily to stir up trouble like that, but the angel felt fulfilled avenging herself against that girl for being so audacious. And after that circus, Lily gets tired and says she's had enough for today, so Akatsu should let her know if he detects any demons fooling around or else he'll regret it. But as soon as the angel leaves, a diabolical presence shows up at the table, while Akatsu complains that the girl didn't even pay her share of the meal. However, when he goes to the cashier, the employee informs him that the bill has already been paid, and Akatsu feels embarrassed because Lily played the role of the man in the situation. On the next day, Lily Amain is facing a demon, brandishing her intimidating scythe, declaring how she will exorcise that devil mercilessly, while Akatsu watches the scene, feeling ashamed for leading the enemy to an ally. However, he soon wakes up from this nightmare and breathes a sigh of relief. During school hours, Yuka sits in front of Lily and apologizes for the small mistake she made with those nasty comments about the blonde. Inside, Lily is seething with rage and returns the sarcasm, saying that Yuka also shouldn't have dropped that bomb in the middle of everyone, causing such a tragic breakup. Yuka backs down and reveals that she and Hirota were just friends, not bothered by this small situation. Furthermore, she mentions studying in the adjacent classroom and suggests that despite yesterday's misunderstanding, she and Lily should be friends. Lily maintains her composure, responding that she would love that. In the meantime, Akatsu is baffled by the show of insincerity until Yuka bids a polite farewell. As soon as the girl leaves, Lily is boiling with hatred, stating that Yuka deliberately used the word small several times, and she will make her suffer for it. A few hours later during the break, Akatsu recalls his nightmare and how the angel acted similarly while exorcising the demon, humiliating the victim without remorse. At that moment, his two friends find him after searching the entire school. Concerned about Akatsu's isolation, they ask what's going on. Akatsu can't tell the truth for obvious reasons, so he invents a lie about having frequent dreams about an older woman he knows, making it difficult for him to sleep. Hirota and Tanagawa suspect that Akatsu is in love, and despite his denials, they laugh at him as they didn't expect such a thing from Akatsu. The fact that he can't sleep because of dreaming about a woman makes him seem like he's still in middle school. However, the idea of an older woman surprises them as they thought Akatsu had a crush on Lily. Hirota even suggests that if it were her, he and Akatsu would be crush buddies. The demon wonders if such a situation among friends should be awkward, but Hirota is indifferent, claiming not to care about who likes whom. He would like to give Akatsu some love advice, but confesses that he has never approached a girl that way. Akatsu asks about yesterday's situation, and Hirota explains that Yuka is just an old friend, and he was accompanying her while shopping. Speaking of Yuka, Hirota mentions that he tries to flirt with other girls, but Tanahashi always ruins the atmosphere, chasing away potential dates. Akatsu asks why he doesn't date Tanahashi given the situation, and Hirota is at a loss for words, admitting he has various reasons for that. Meanwhile, Lily Amain is hunting demons in the square, inviting Akatsu to serve as a radar. However, he replies via message that he has a stomachache. Lily doesn't insist and sits to rest after 2 hours of searching, lamenting that she can't simply extract Akatsu's perception power. Instead of attracting her prey, Yuka Tanahashi approaches, surprising the angel. Lily almost lets her disdain show but maintains a forced smile, pretending to be happy about this unexpected encounter. Yuka mentions that she was hanging out with Hirota and saw Lily on the way back, so she invited her for a stroll later. Although Amain wants to crush this girl's organs, she knows it's not advantageous to create unnecessary conflicts with humans and attract negative attention. Therefore, she accepts the invitation with a forced smile, and the two proceed to choose clothes together. Arriving at the store, Yuka deliberately picks out oversized clothes for Lily and pushes her into the fitting room. As soon as the blonde reveals her new style, Yuka laughs at the angel's size. Lily plays dumb again and closes the fitting room to change back, knowing well that it was a declaration of war and that Yuka is trying to mock her at any cost. She then turns the tables on Yuka, making her experience the same treatment and feel what it's like to be at war with an angel. Since they know exactly how the human mind works, attacking the psychological aspects of such unstable enemies is not a significant challenge. For this reason, Lily offers Yuka a larger skirt, and since she has that protruding belly, it will surely fit. Despite being a child's skirt, the width of 56 centimeters seems tailor-made for her. Feeling the pressure of fat shaming, Yuka suggests they leave and the Cold War takes a new turn. Shortly after, Lily shows Yuka the weight loss magazine, while Yuka responds with an article on how to raise a child healthily. Next, Yuka takes Lily to a Purakura session, a photo booth where friends can take pictures and edit them with drawings and effects. Yuka's intention is to play around with the edits and make the photos as grotesque as possible to traumatize Lily, but the blonde seems interested in the activity. After the Purakura, Lily starts sending messages again, demanding the presence of her servant while the two take a break for a snack. Yuka suggests that Lily put the photos in a notebook or something similar, and gradually the angel begins to win over the other girl with her charm, playing the absent-minded girl who needs help. This causes Yuka to lower her guard, and during the conversation, she admits that she invited Lily just to keep the enemy close and get to know her. After all, Lily has always been what boys desire most in a girl, and Yuka is the opposite of that. But still, she felt that the two could be friends despite everything. In turn, Lily admits that she also had fun that day, so she feels comfortable saying that she feels no attraction to Hirota. Yuka already suspected this and comments that Kensuke has always been very eager. But even after the two apologize sincerely for the incident in the cafeteria, Yuka still feels like she's competing with Lily as a woman. After all, Lily has a very high feminine power, being beautiful, charming, and having long eyelashes. Upon hearing these words, Lily didn't feel like she was lying, so she began to think that maybe Yuka has some kindness inside. In the meantime, Yuka remembers that she has another commitment and says goodbye, leaving Lily with a strawberry milk candy that aids growth. As the girl leaves, Amain is angry at being provoked even after this reconciliation. But anyway, she looks at the photos they took together and decides to forgive the girl for today being enjoyable. Sometime later, Lily felt lightened by the moments of friendship she had, and she even decided to release her servant from work today, telling him to take his medicine and rest. On the other hand, Akatsu doesn't believe that the angel is concerned about him, so he rushes to see what's going on. As soon as he catches up with Lily, Akatsu says that his stomachache is gone, but since he didn't say this over the phone before running over, Lily comments that the demon is not the type who knows how to lie. Speaking of which, she's tired of small talk and tells Akatsu to locate the demon he's sensing, and that will happen as soon as she changes her clothes. Shortly after, she meets her target and introduces herself as the Reaper of Evil and the natural enemy of demons. So, a battle between the two begins, and Lily is frustrated for not being able to hit the wolf. Arrogant as she is, she loses patience and tells the owner to admit soon that he has no chance against her and to surrender. While Akatsu waits around the corner for the girl to do her job, the wolf asks why the angel wants to kill him. So Lily says she heard that some dogs in the neighborhood have been attacking women in the city, and she asks if it was the demon wolf who did that. The beast smiles and responds that he can tell, but the angel has to defeat him first. To ensure he wouldn't need to spill the beans, the demon assumes his true form, revealing a humanoid wolf with a graceful waist movement. The demon comments that he understands the girl is too terrified to say anything, but before he continues his speech, Lily hits the creature with the scythe, complaining that this fantasy is too vulgar. In the meantime, Akatsu is giving his colleague a massage, while he complains that he just wanted to get into the summer trend with this outfit. However, Akatsu is careless, leaving his hiding spot, and the wolf noticed that the boy was a demon. He questions why a demon is helping an angel, but as Akatsu couldn't justify it, the wolf orders the traitor to attack Lily as a proof of loyalty. Seeing this threat, the angel quickly steps forward and warns that if Akatsu attacks, he will be exorcised too. Meanwhile, the guy is trying to calm everyone down, arguing that the best way to resolve conflicts is through dialogue. Like in those games where you have to press the button several times to fill the heart, our souls are filled with love when we solve our problems through conversation. However, while Akatsu tried to convince them not to brawl, they had already been in the middle of a brawl for some time, each one saying how stupid that guy is for trying to push this peace and love talk in such a situation. As both refuse to accept the proposal, Akatsu decides to share some of his love with them, attempting to soften their violent hearts, and revealing his summer outfit underneath his clothes, he improvises a song about compassion and empathy. Then he throws the microphone to the audience and asks what they feel after this performance. The wolf comments first that the boy is really an idiot, laughing at his microphone. But instead of mocking the guy, the wolf takes the microphone and improvises a song back to him, extolling how much better his life would be if he hadn't met this kid. And upon hearing the song, the wolf recognizes how repugnant angels can be because even though Lily wants Akatsu as a partner, she despises him in this way. However, the battle continues and Akatsu takes the microphone back. But instead of responding musically, he cries and expresses his feelings, saying that the girl didn't mean to say those ugly things. He throws the microphone back to the angel, who speaks with some rhymes that if he wants to be heard, he has to be clearer in his speech. Watching the battle, the wolf notices that the little demon has been fighting for him from the beginning, distracting the evil angel so she wouldn't attack him. This discovery softened the wolf's heart, and when Akatsu was on his knees in tears, announcing that he can't take those insults from Lily anymore, the wolf holds the microphone and says that the boy has done enough for today, and besides thanking Akatsu for everything he did for him, the wolf also starts crying and the two demons hug tightly. Then Lily sings on the microphone that she'll leave them to sort things out while she takes a break from all this nonsense. Sometime later, Lily asks the demon wolf what he's looking for around there. He replies that he was looking for new fashion magazines as one day he learned about the existence of those spat pants that shaped the thighs and buttocks. At first, the wolf was satisfied just seeing women wearing those pants in magazines, but a violent feeling rose in his head, and the demon began attacking women in spat pants on the streets. Despite that, he eventually found out that his victims weren't wearing spat pants, but leggings. Faced with this, Akatsu and Lily scratch their heads while discovering that spat and leggings are two different things. After the explanation, the angel decides to end the demon and put him in a state of grace. With her scythe, she summons a portal that gradually dissolves the wolf's body, and the beast thanks Akatsu for caring about him. However, only after the wolf had been exorcised could Akatsu admit that he had done all that for himself. Despite the drama, soon the boy discovers that the demon turned into a cute little puppy, and after Lily takes some photos of the little one, she hands him over to Miss Kearney, the leader of a voluntary organization for rescuing dogs and cats. After this moment, Akatsu asks Lily what exactly she did to that demon, and the angel explains that she sealed his wicked powers and thoughts. In the case of a humanoid like that, they become pets and are handed over to some organization like Miss Kearney's because heaven doesn't know what to do with them. In the end, Lily comments that she takes no pleasure in killing demons, but she can't speak for all angels. Akatsu takes advantage of this confession to ask why Lily hit the ground with that giant scythe, so she replies that she didn't do it on purpose, and that concrete rising from the ground was just an illusion to scare the demon, and even if the scythe had hit him, it wouldn't have hurt for real. But Akatsu isn't convinced that Lily really doesn't harm evil creatures, so he asked about that day when she said she humiliated and exorcised a demon slowly on the day they met. Then Lily shows her cell phone with a picture of another puppy, saying that this is the beast she mentioned and that she even drew an eyebrow on the little one to get him adopted faster. Moreover, she threatens to draw eyebrows on Akatsu if he keeps being so annoying with her, and so the girl goes away. As she leaves, Akatsu realizes that this angel is very different from what he always thought angels were like. After all, Lily not only leaves demons alive, but also takes pictures with them, giving that genuine smile of joy. However, Akatsu remembers those photos of angels committing atrocities and wonders if only Lily is this peaceful. The girl turns around and decides to buy a snack for Akatsu as a gesture for the services he provided. However, since the guy was immersed in his thoughts, he decides to ask whether only Lily is kind in that way or if all angels have that characteristic. The girl takes the opportunity to boast, ironically pointing out how Akatsu has just now realized how kind she is. Seeing this reaction, the demon comments that he was quite foolish to make that remark, and Lily wholeheartedly agrees. At that moment, she turns and starts walking again, inviting the boy to follow her while reflecting on how someone called her kind, even in her original form, as no one had ever done that before. And when night falls, Akatsu and Lily are together in a moment of affection. The girl promises to reward him for everything he has done for her. And just as the boy pouts to kiss her, he wakes up in the classroom with his bald teacher admiring the boy's ability to always sleep in his classes, and as a reward, the protagonist gets a punch in the head. With a bump the size of an ostrich egg, Akatsu goes back to the back of the classroom and remembers that he has been dreaming about Lily Amain since the first day they met, and that his heart pounded very hard the first time he noticed her. With this feeling in his head, Akatsu tries to write in his notebook what he's feeling, but soon realizes that he's a demon having romantic feelings, not to mention being in love with an enemy, so he has a brief identity crisis. But even when he gets home, Akatsu is still thinking about the girl, and gradually he recognizes that Amain is driving him crazy, and there's not much he can do about it. Until, in the middle of the night, someone knocks on the door, and there's Liz, the head of the Department of Hell. She scolds Akatsu, saying he's being lazy just because there's no class today. Soon he welcomes the woman, and she informs him that she came to deliver a new school uniform that matches the season, as is the tradition of the city. In addition, the superior asks how his subordinate's mission is going. In fact, Akatsu hadn't forgotten that he had this responsibility to find a charismatic leader to lead Hell in the war, so the demon gets a little lost in his response, and not wanting to leave everything blank, he says that he found a candidate, but even though he looks great, his personality is horrible. And while Akatsu describes the candidate, he can only think of Lily Amain. Liz responds that it's okay if he hasn't found a leader yet, but it would be good to hurry, because the war is getting more complicated. Then she warns that she'll have to sleep at Akatsu's house because the department doesn't have the money to cover her accommodation. Soon, she enters the room and informs that she will change, and with no time to think about everything that is happening in his life, Akatsu begins to lose his mind when he realizes that there is another problem to solve, because clearly, this is a case of forbidden love between the employee and the superior. However, contrary to everything he was imagining in his head, Liz had brought a huge sleeping bag that wraps her entire body like a cocoon, and so they sleep separately. The next day, Liz informs Akatsu that today they will go out for training. The hours pass, and Akatsu is approaching two friends on the street like a weirdo, only to be rejected mercilessly. Because of this embarrassment, Liz advises the employee that he has to think more before choosing the representative of the demons because he needs to make sure that this person is determined enough to go down to hell and fulfill his duties. And while Akatsu can't get Lilia Main out of his mind, Liz adds that this person also has to have all the conviction in the world to lead the forces of evil. Later, with these pieces of advice in mind, Akatsu approaches another girl on the street and resorts to a fake photo of his abandoned pet. The girl says she didn't see the puppy, but Akatsu appeals even more, saying that the girl should let him know if she sees the dog because his little sister can't eat since the dog disappeared. And since then, she has contracted terrible diseases. Seeing this humiliation, the girl is startled and agrees to ask all her friends about the pet, so she ends up asking for Akatsu's number. Then Liz advises that Akatsu did well, but it would be even better if he could exploit the loophole that every woman has inside her because having a strategy is focusing on a specific point. So he follows the hunch and begins to enchant all the women on the street until Liz asks him to approach one more and ask her to have tea with him. Therefore, Akatsu catches the attention of the girl, and as soon as she turns, he realizes it's Yuka. She immediately thinks he's hitting on her, so even before he says anything, she agrees to have something with him, but only if he pays. Meanwhile, Lily had slept the whole day and realizes that she won't have time to hunt demons today, so she decides to wash some clothes. Akatsu and Yuka are now at a bar drinking orange juice, and Akatsu communicates with the boss to know the next steps, but Liz is asking him to give her some time while she flips through a book, so Akatsu realizes that she had been reading all this in a manual from the beginning. For this reason, he tries to handle the situation on the spot, but as soon as Yuka asks if he likes Lily, the boy falls apart. She insists on the subject, but he continues to say no, and to avoid this topic, he asks if Hirota still has a chance with her, and Yuka reveals that a relationship is difficult because they are childhood friends. At that moment, Akatsu turns into an advisor like Liz and copies her ready-made phrase, saying that having a strategy is focusing on a specific point. With that, Yuka seems to understand the meaning of it, although there isn't any, and she interprets that she is concentrating forces on the wrong person, so she thanks Akatsu for the help. Liz instructs Akatsu to go further, telling him to invite Yuka to the park at night, otherwise he will fail the training. He goes crazy for having to flirt with a girl who has a crush on his friend, but he has no choice, so he makes the invitation. In the meantime, Lily washed clothes in the cold, so it seems like she caught a cold. Therefore, she tries to warm up at that moment. Later, Akatsu and Yuka are walking together in the park, but both are visibly awkward. In the end, they almost don't even talk until Yuka promises not to tell anyone about this meeting and quickly leaves. At that moment, Liz arrives and praises her subordinate's training, as well as informing him that she is leaving for now. However, there is something important she needs to say. Akatsu flirted with the bartender in front of Yuka, and it's not cool to do that. However, it was that tiny angel accidentally activating the collar by sneezing on the command device, but Akatsu can't say that to Liz at all, so he ends up taking the blame. The head of the Department of Hell leaves, and after learning so much in the art of dialogue with women, the demon feels that he has gained a new breath to deal with Lilia Main and her angelic stubbornness. And speaking of the devil, the girl is looking at herself in the mirror, feeling quite attractive, perhaps capable of making Akatsu fall for her in this way, because then everything would be easier for her. But despite this beauty, Amain herself is feeling inferior to the intense charm that Devil has been radiating in recent days, because the boy truly possesses the seasoning and spice of love on his shoulders. However, Lily knows Akatsu. She knows he's not like that, maybe it's just a phase or something of that sort. Yeah, this phase might be enough to catch the angel off guard, as a simple touch of the boy's hand on Lily's face makes her combust. At this moment, she is about to surrender, but a trump card still plays a decisive role in this struggle, the collar. Knowing this, Lilia Main wavels her fingers in front of Akatsu to show the activation device, wondering how she's going to activate this thing. Still, the boy sighs as if he doesn't believe she can do it, or worse yet, thinks she'll like him to the point of not wanting to use the collar. These thoughts consume the mind of the poor girl, who seems more and more unsure of what to do next. In an improvisational move, she tries the clumsy and innocent running strategy to surprise her victim, waving to the young devil and asking if he saw Professor Shiromura. With the sweet charm of her helpless gaze, Lily provokes another round between her ego Theum and the devil's Joe. This time, Tham attacks Joe, Akatsu's ego, with speed. Despite the cat's incredible speed, the dog dodges with alarming ease, making Lily pass through the corridor as if she were nobody in the eyes of the charming boy, who casually informs that Shiromura is in the teacher's room. With the result, Lily awkwardly thanks him and analyzes why her flirtation didn't work. Did she miss the angle? Or maybe it wasn't natural enough after all. It's been a while since she practiced, as most boys have always fallen for her without much effort. In the end, it was probably just a coincidence. Akatsu will still succumb to the angel's sauce. However, life doesn't seem easier for Lily as the days go by. When she suggests that her classmate helps her tie her hair, he responds without even looking back that it must be difficult to manage that mane, keeping Joe dodging every blow dealt by Tham. Later, she unbuttons a button on her blouse due to the heat, but only Hirota seems interested in the move. Akatsu is trying to cool off with a glass of water next to his friend Tanagawa. Meanwhile, Joe continues to escape unscathed from Amane's boxing cat, leaving her wondering what to do. Then Akatsu himself reappears, asking if the girl gave up tying her hair because the ponytail suits her well. With this move, he turns his head 60 degrees to the left and sends a charming look, making Tham retreat instantly to catch her breath. Joe takes advantage to advance, but the cat is saved by the bell with the end-of-round alarm. After another failure, Lily begins to despair, unaware that she is falling into Akatsu's plans like a duck. But since it's like that, she has no choice but to resort to her trump card, the mount. So she gains momentum from the walls and leaps at speed to try to land in a dubious position on her opponent. Using the force of this technique, Tham prepares for the final blow against Joe. However, against all expectations, Akatsu tames the maiden in the air and prevents her fall like a true gentleman. Moreover, he asks if she got hurt, concluding that it wouldn't be good for such a pretty face to be injured. Thus, Tham takes a hook to the chin and concedes defeat to Lily, sprawled on the ground. On the other side of the ring, Joe and Akatsu question whether the angel really thought the same tactic would work twice, then affirm with a serious expression that Amane underestimated the devils. Cornered, the girl tries to escape, but the boy insists that she go to the infirmary to check if anything more serious happened to her. Waiting outside, Akatsu is proud of himself and praises his superior, Liz, for the imminent victory. Meanwhile, the demon herself is focused on her work, an essential part of which is checking if her subordinate is performing well. Therefore, she needs to develop her disguises even more, which are an essential part of well-executed espionage. At this moment, dressing as a high school student will be the best way to closely observe young Akatsu's performance. But while Liz hasn't arrived, Amane leaves the infirmary without major complications, but with a basic thirst on a hot afternoon. Akatsu is prepared and has his own water bottle but offers to buy another one for his classmate. Despite this, Lily can't wait to quench her thirst, so she takes the boy's bottle and threatens to drink from the neck, saying as innocently as possible that it looks like an indirect kiss. At this moment, Akatsu turns his head and covers his mouth with his hand, while Lily hopes to see the enemy's heart melt. Instead, Akatsu pretends to be embarrassed and calls the girl an idiot, telling her to stop saying such things, leaving her embarrassed. But through the demon's fingers, she saw that he was laughing, so to get back at him, she decides to use the same trick again. However, the demon had already rented a penthouse in the angel's mind, and Lily couldn't concentrate on what she was doing. Gathering her last strength, she taps into her inner power and rises once again alongside Tham, who confirms that he can return to the fight. So she returns the bottle to her opponent and says she'd rather buy another one later, but with her chains, she cuts the bottle in half in the air, letting all the water fall on her body. Using the strategy of this sexy wet body, Lily hopes again for a satisfactory result. However, once again, Akatsu proves to be the master of improvisation, throwing his jacket into the air, which falls perfectly over the girl's shoulders. And to prevent her from catching a cold, he winks and says she can keep the jacket. In this way, Tham takes another hook and falls to the ground. Lily, in turn, is frying her brain in the middle of class due to so many consecutive defeats, feeling so bad that the smoke she exudes causes concern for Yuka, who comes to see how her friend is doing. Not functioning properly, Lily asks if there is any way to crush a man's heart, and Hirota's ex gives her an idea by showing her phone screen. Later, Lily changes plans to hunt demons and decides to invite Akatsu to her house with a bag full of things. Akatsu, not a fool, knows he needs to be careful with the girl's intention, who claims she'll only cook for the demon in exchange for his services. Arriving at the girl's building, he is surprised by the size of her house compared to his humble abode. Despite thinking he would maintain his composure in the face of Amane's scheme, he feels that the worst is yet to come and starts acting strangely in someone else's house. At this moment, Lily questions the boy's behavior while donning a chef's apron. Akatsu is taken aback but promises not to succumb to the pressure, and both Joe and Tham return to balancing the confrontation. Akatsu understands that the girl is at home and should feel comfortable, but wearing just an apron is a bit much. However, Lily turns the tables and proves that the guy was completely mistaken. Soon the dish arrives and Akatsu is surprised by the quality, which offends Lily. Then the stove beeps and she asks the boy to start eating without her. Even though he thought it wouldn't be a big deal, the delicious aroma of the meal gently invaded his nostrils, creating a whirlwind of descriptions in his mind about how wonderful the food is. As if that weren't enough, that was just an appetizer, so Lily puts the main course on the table. Akatsu asks if the girl likes Italian pasta. When she replies that she likes it so much that she eats it 4 times a week, Akatsu questions if she doesn't think she should balance her diet a bit. Lily doesn't pay much attention but imagines it's a trick of the demon, so she asks what he usually eats. Proudly, Akatsu says there's nothing better than a bell pepper with tempura stuffed with meat. With that, Lily takes the opportunity to launch a counterattack, laughing and saying that a bell pepper is not a real meal, while Akatsu tries to defend the versatility of his beloved dish. But it's too late. The demon had fallen completely into the girl's trap. In the meantime, Joe and Theon were waiting for the next round in the ring, but decide to drop their gloves, agreeing that they can't fight under these circumstances. Akatsu and Lily decide what to do after lunch, and the boy is eager to watch a movie that was lying around. Lily throws a fit, complaining that she doesn't want to watch that movie again because it has too many bugs in it. Paying attention, Akatsu discovers an angel's weak point, which covers her mouth as soon as she realizes, but it's too late. So Thiam and Joe watch the lovebirds forcefully fighting over the DVD to see if Lily would escape this embarrassment or if Akatsu could expose a fear of the girl in front of his eyes. And in the midst of this confusion, the dog and the cat wonder when this couple will resolve things between them. By night, the duo is watching a romantic movie that Lily rented, and Akatsu realizes that she is still a girl, even though she's an angel. And with the dark atmosphere, where things dangerously become more intimate, Akatsu reflects on an emergency exit. However, after the movie couple finally kisses, they get to the point, while Akatsu despairs to maintain his composure and complains that the fictional couple is doing this kind of thing in front of innocent teenagers. To check the opposite side, Akatsu turns his face to Lily, who has a red face and is looking back at him. But soon both turn their heads and make excuses to justify why they were looking at each other. Lily just wanted to check the time on the wall clock, and Akatsu was just stretching his neck to the right. Next, the girl tries to escape the awkward situation by grabbing a soda and ends up stumbling. Akatsu tries to prevent the fall, but falls with her, while Joe and Thiam are in anticipation of a resolution to this story. Faced with all this, Akatsu's body stopped responding to his brain. He seemed resigned to the situation he was in, while his mouth became increasingly dry, and he asked why Lily hadn't cursed at him as she always does. The girl is not in a condition to say a word, while the guy is sucked into an uncontrollable desire to fulfill his wish. So he touches the girl's face with his hand to kiss her until an alarm goes off on Amain's phone. They both get a big fright, but Akatsu returns to the position he was in. Therefore, Lily politely asks him if he can excuse her to turn off the alarm. After that, the girl adjusts her clothes and says it's already late. Remembering the almost kiss, her mind fries again in a mix of desire and hatred, while the guy gets up awkwardly and says it might really be time for him to leave. After Akatsu leaves, Lily Amain contacts her superiors again and finishes her scheduled report. Then she starts thinking again about what just happened and wonders what got into her head. However, as stubborn as she is about her feelings, her heart continues to beat very strongly. Therefore, she realizes that something is wrong because she had never felt this way before. Every time she remembers the scene, she feels a tightness in her chest. Akatsu, on the other hand, is going through the same questioning as he heads home. He knows that Amain is an angel, a mortal enemy, but still he couldn't help getting close to her. Also, with his hand on his chest, he feels that he still hasn't been able to calm down since he left Lily Amain's building. Thus, both put their hands on their conscience and realize the obvious. They are in love with each other. The next day, the two head back to school, and Lily is exhausted from not being able to sleep last night because of what happened between her and Akatsu. So she tries to focus on her studies to stay awake, but ends up dozing off. Suddenly, she realizes she's fallen into some strange dream, while Akatsu is going through the same struggle, fighting to stay awake. He glances at Lily and sees that she's already lost the battle against sleep, and there she is complaining that she couldn't sleep in class because she's always been an exemplary student, until Akatsu appears in the dream offering to help with whatever she needs. At first, she's taken aback by finding passion within the dream itself, and upon closer inspection, she realizes she's dreaming of a dating simulator, where Akatsu is one of the characters she must encounter. Above all, she wants to wake up, but feels she can only do so after getting past this part with Akatsu in the game. At this point, the game glitches and even the language becomes indecipherable, so Lily chooses any option just to advance the plot somehow. With her choice, Akatsu asserts that he'll show all this power to Lily, who tells him to shut up as she doesn't know how to react. Meanwhile, the demon notices it's not very common to see Amain sleeping, so he wonders what her face must look like while sleeping. He notices it and sees the look of despair on her face, so he decides to pretend he didn't see any of it. Back in the angel's dream, Lily has progressed through some stages, but still hasn't gotten past Akatsu in the game. For this reason, she tries to figure out what she should do to end this quickly. And at this point, the idea of a meeting between the two comes to her mind as a final stage, but despite liking the idea, she forces herself to abandon it to convince herself that this is all just a stupid romance simulation within a dream. This stress makes the girl tremble in the classroom, which makes Akatsu wonder if he should wake her up, but then Lily calms down and seems happy in the dream, so the demon gives up the idea. It seems Lily is content because she's finally on a date, although she's very embarrassed in practice. She doesn't understand why she feels this way since it's just a demon beside her, and if there's something that doesn't make her anxious, it's being like him. But her heart keeps beating faster, so for a moment, she sets aside her shyness and gathers the courage to look at the boy, who reciprocates by touching her face and confessing that he's in love, so he asks Lily to close her eyes. The angel goes crazy because a demon is before her asking for such a thing, and immediately the option to close her eyes or not appears in front of her. At first, she heads for the button not to close her eyes, but she can't press it because she knows she would love to know what will happen if she actually closes her eyes. However, before she could decide what to do, the powerful waist samurai appears and strikes a mortal blow with his katana on Akatsu's shoulder, causing him to fall hard to the ground. Lily despairs and tries to help her friend, who regrets having messed up by eating too much and widening his waist, provoking the anger of the waist samurai, but facing his end, he tries to console the young Lily Amain, telling her not to be sad, as he will depart satisfied for finally having felt the sweet taste of passion. Therefore, he would love to kick the bucket witnessing a beautiful and genuine smile from his beloved. However, the wound was so severe that it finally took away the demon's life before the angel could fulfill her wish. At that moment, Akatsu and Yuko wake the girl, imagining she was having a very heavy nightmare, and it seems the situation was so bad that Lily herself ended up in the infirmary, perhaps just to get a decent nap. However, she can't even sleep again because she's been so restless lately, and as much as she thought she had great self-control, she can't avoid this situation. Moreover, at that moment, Akatsu announces that he's going to enter Lily's room through the curtain, and on the spur of the moment, the girl decides to pretend to be asleep so she doesn't have to look at him. Meanwhile, she tries to figure out the reason he's showing up there, and concludes that he's just taking advantage of the situation to fill her heart with some cheap words of comfort. She plans not to allow it and asserts that she'll still turn the tables, but scenes of the two together fill her head, causing the angel to lose her composure. Therefore, Amain loses control and shouts at the boy, asking what he wants with her. After all, not quite understanding why Amain is reacting like this, Akatsu is happy that the girl showed up and says she could have told him she was awake, while unbuttoning the first button of his shirt, revealing a part of his body that leaves the girl even more lost, so instantly she hides her face again and assumes that Akatsu is planning to attack her while she slept and make her wear those strange clothes that appear on TV, and not to let it go, she wraps the poor boy's body with several chains and makes him twirl as punishment. However, Akatsu explains that his only intention was to wait for the girl to wake up from the outside. Lily argues that the boy was unbuttoning his shirt while doing so, but he explains that he just wanted help taking off the collar from his neck. With that, the angel doesn't know where to put her face, but later she explains that she won't take off the collar anyway. Then, Akatsu responds that he has a great reason for the girl to remove his collar, since he plans to go to a super hot public bath. Therefore, he asks Lily to at least change the color of the mark to something less flashy, or else he won't have the courage to enter the pool. Because of Akatsu's reason for wanting the end of his collar, Lily asks if he shouldn't be looking for an evil leader instead of worrying about public pools, so he confesses that he never got along well in hell, and that he's discovering a real life alongside the people he met in this world. Following this ideal, he wants to make the most of this place full of brightness, unlike the darkness of hell. Finally, he presumes that the angel wouldn't understand his side, since she spent her whole life in heaven. But the girl doesn't respond, and Akatsu realizes he opened his mouth too much, venting more than he should have, which probably will give Amain a chance to make fun of him. However, she simply responds in a simple and sincere way, understanding the demon's reasons. Then she agrees to help the boy with the collar thing. So she begins her procedure to end his suffering, but something starts to go very wrong. Suddenly, some unknown being materializes in front of Lily, conjuring a giant axe. Knowing what would happen, Lily runs and tells Akatsu to flee, and just when he would be hit, the demon manages to dodge and question what's happening. Lily explains that this is an anti-demon avatar she attached to the collar in case Akatsu betrayed her. However, for some reason, this avatar is also attacking its own master. Lily assumes that the avatar spent too much time inside a demon, causing it to malfunction and randomly attack everyone. In the meantime, Professor Shiromura enters the room to see who is causing this commotion, and soon the avatar attacks the man. Akatsu and Amain manage to avoid it, and the angel tells the demon to take the professor away while she holds the enemy. Shiromura laments that he won't withstand the injuries, and Akatsu reminds him that he didn't get hurt anywhere. However, the professor claims he was thrown by the explosion of the mysterious woman, and Akatsu must evacuate everyone inside the school. Then he loses consciousness due to the pain. Impatiently, Lily drags Shiromura away and tells Akatsu to escape to the courtyard with her before the avatar breaks the chains. Downstairs, the angel will set up a barrier to isolate them from the rest of the school and prevent anyone else from being in danger. Soon, the avatar descends to find the two targets again, and the angel sets up the ring in the courtyard with her magical shield, joining forces with the demon to face the enemy. Amain tries to restrain the avatar, but it has surreal strength, and the chains are not enough to hold it. Suspicious of this extraordinary power, the girl takes a closer look around the avatar and notices a mark on its back. Akatsu is puzzled by the lack of reaction from his companion, so he tries to deal with the opponent to prevent him from reaching Amain. However, the mysterious woman isolates the demon with a kick. Then she goes after Lily, who is defenseless in front of her. The avatar tries to hit her with its axe, but Akatsu stops it with his own hand and pushes the enemy away. Next, he tells Lily to compose herself since her intention is to do good for heaven, while his is to favor hell, and that won't happen on its own. Having said that, Amain acknowledges that she let her emotions get the better of her, almost leading to a fatal mistake. For this reason, she needs to get her head back in the game and return to the fight. In the end, she finds it curious to be reminded of this by a demon. So she comes to her senses and tells Akatsu that she has a plan. Apparently, the avatar is being controlled by someone else because of the mark on its back. Therefore, Lily conveys her idea to the demon, who, without revealing the strategy, moves forward toward the enemy. Soon, he delivers a devastating punch to the ground, creating a dust cloud that prevents the woman from seeing where she's being attacked. He tries to attack from her blind spot, but the avatar has an impressive reaction speed and manages to hit Akatsu in the shoulder with its axe. However, all of this was part of Akatsu's plan. He used a clone as bait to gain time to hold the avatar. With this opportunity, the angel has a chance to appear from above and try to nullify the control spell on the avatar. However, snakes emerge from the mark and seek the girl's hand. Still, Lily pulls the tail, holding all the snakes so hard that she ends up breaking it, making the avatar disappear once and for all. With the danger over, Akatsu regrets being so exhausted even though he didn't do anything too complex. Hearing that, Lily admits that he is still being restrained by her, and that's why he couldn't unleash his true strength against the enemy. Akatsu is angered by this revelation and asks if she's going to put that axe thing inside him again. Lily explains that she absorbed the avatar into herself, and at that moment, she faints. Without the invocator's strength, the angel's magical barrier begins to crumble, and Akatsu needs to get out of there quickly with the girl. Meanwhile, a woman is impressed that her snakes were defeated and asks if that angel has always been this powerful. As a result, she instructs her brother to take care of the target, even if she may not get permission for it. Akatsu has been standing still for too long watching Lily rest, so he soon realizes that this may seem strange and covers the girl appropriately in bed. Then he reflects on the hellish day he had, where a simple desire to swim in the pool triggered a series of crazy events. Speaking of which, he didn't solve the problem of the mark on his neck, but it seems he'll have to leave that for tomorrow. Therefore, he heads out of the room where Amain is sleeping. However, the girl grabs the guy's pants with one hand and asks him not to leave. The girl's hands trembled as she held the demon, and recalling the fight against the avatar, he observes that Lily was acting strangely at that moment, as if she were emotional or had a bad feeling. And even though he's not too keen on helping the angel, he has no choice at the moment since he still has the collar around his neck, and this accessory still signifies that she has control over him. Speaking of the collar, Lily didn't even bother to change the color of that thing. As for the avatar, he remembers when Amain said that it was being controlled by someone, and so Akatsu presumes that maybe there was some trouble in heaven, but it's not his concern as the demon already has his share of worries with hell. Although he could have left the girl alone against the avatar and lived up to his nature, he definitely wouldn't be cool to see Lily in trouble in front of him. And as he's having this thought, Akatsu starts to worry about acting like those nice guys who do everything for others, including worrying about girls' feelings. Suddenly, a more gallant version of Akatsu appears in the room, responding that he has indeed become exactly what he's imagining. At least with Lily Amain, after all, he's hopelessly in love with this angel. But he doesn't need to worry because the girl is definitely into him too, especially since she held onto the stallion's pants to keep his masculine presence in this difficult moment. With little confidence in this, the original Akatsu assumes that all of this happened because she was scared of the incident, but the copy ridicules the fact that the young man understands nothing about women's hearts. In a moment like this, she would definitely just want to feel the presence of a specific person. and that person is himself, Masator Akatsu. In other words, she clearly likes you, there's no escaping it. With that, the original Akatsu's realization hits him once again, as if the first time wasn't enough, and he points to the bed, shouting if someone who really likes him is lying there after all. Speaking of it, the blankets move, and the two stand still, eagerly waiting to see the angelic face of their beloved Lily again, until in fact it's Professor Shiromura who emerges, pulling the boy under the covers. Sometime later, Lily wakes up and realizes she passed out without even taking off her uniform. Going to wash her face, she wonders how she ended up in her own room until she sees Akatsu crying during a nightmare. She becomes even more confused because she doesn't remember everything that happened until she remembers pulling the boy back when she was still asleep, and for things like that, she hates being a sleepwalker. But now there's no way around it. She has to erase his memories, so she approaches the victim to make him forget everything and then some. However, seeing the cut on the demon's hand, she reflects that he endured that to try to save Amain, and this makes her reconsider. So while bandaging Akatsu's hand, she wonders why he helped her, given that they are enemies and he could have easily abandoned the angel in battle. Perhaps deep down it's because he feels something for her, but that idea disturbs the girl and she quickly becomes embarrassed and tries to dismiss that hypothesis. At this moment, she accidentally thanks the boy for his help but quickly loses her composure, telling herself that he shouldn't ask for anything more because she has already thanked him, and that in itself is enough. However, she also remembers the day she promised to give him a hug for every job well done. Even though it was just a joke, sometimes he took it seriously, and you might get hurt if he doesn't receive this reward, especially because this help now is worth 10,000 jobs well done. Meanwhile, Akatsu remains in his nightmare, realizing how heavy his teacher is. Therefore, she prepares to give the demon a hug, but at the last moment, she realizes what she's doing and abandons the idea, saying that the guy there can forget it because she won't do it. However, she knows very well that she herself brought up the subject, and for this reason, Lily begins to have an identity crisis, not knowing how to act in this situation. She knows that her pride won't allow her to back down, but part of her would love for her to have the courage to go ahead. It was then that Lily had the best idea that anyone could have at that moment, which is to pretend that none of that happened. However, desire speaks louder, and the next moment, she changes her mind as the hub will only be this time according to herself. Therefore, the angel approaches once again to reward her servant, but Akatsu is still fast asleep, meaning it's not appropriate for her to be rubbing against him without the boy being awake. On the other hand, when awake, the demon becomes even more annoying, so this may be the chance to do it without stressing herself out. In the end, it seems that everything is going to be hell for her, whether she hugs Akatsu or doesn't hug him. Meanwhile, Akatsu is dreaming about Professor Shiromura, who is explaining to him, as if it were a regular lesson, that to understand a woman, you need to think like one. To start with the basics, he pretends to be a girl asking the guy to take the first step soon, while instructing Akatsu to repeat the performance. The demon softens his voice and tries to do well, but the professor tells him to put more feeling into the performance, a truly feminine touch to be more convincing. With that, he ends up letting slip some words, telling Lily to hurry while still asleep. The girl is startled and questions if the boy is already awake and seducing her inappropriately by pretending to be asleep. Then she quickly shouts that he was almost there before this ridiculous act of his. Then she starts analyzing where she could give that hug to Akatsu and concludes that the perfect place would be fitting between his legs. With this plan in mind, she sits facing away from the young man while her head fries like a potato in oil, and all she wishes is that the guy doesn't wake up while she's doing that. Having said that, even without touching the boy, Lily thinks it's enough and she prepares to leave his legs. But before that, Akatsu ends up falling forward and hugging Amain from behind. This triggers the emergency signal in the angel, and Akatsu mumbles that it seems like he's hugging a feather and that the smell is delicious. With a touch, she senses that he's trembling and understands the reason, considering that the demon almost lost his life in that clash with the Avatar, and such a traumatic moment could cause some serious nightmares. What she didn't know is that simply staying in this position with another person could be so comforting. And thinking now with her guard down, Lily remembers that she didn't get a chance to change Akatsu's collar color, so she gets up to finally do that. Therefore, she raises her index finger and dims the dark color of the mark almost to the point of erasing it, realizing that, in the end, Akatsu's reward for the excellent work turned out to be the best possible. Then she turns to the door and notices that Akatsu broke the glass to unlock the latch and left a note apologizing for it, but explaining that he doesn't have the money to fix it. This infuriates the angel, warning that this will definitely go into the account of this demon. Speaking of which, she begins to wonder how the demon got her inside the house after all that confusion. First, she imagines Akatsu dragging her on the floor, then stuffing her into his suitcase, but none of it seems to make sense. In other words, the only possibility would be him carrying her in his arms, and the girl tries her best to rid herself of that thought because that is the last thing an angel would need from an enemy evil entity. As soon as it dawns, Akatsu finally wakes up, tied up in a pink blanket and the chains he knows all too well. Immediately, he knew this could only be Amane's doing, who was sleeping like an angel, as if nothing had happened. So he breaks free from his bonds and decides it's time to go home after all this saga. Before opening the doorknob, he looks at his bandaged hand, then at the girl as she sleeps, and finally turns the knob to leave. As soon as he closes the door, the noise wakes Lily, who looks around and sees that the demon is no longer there with her. So she goes to see what happened, but there's Akatsu apologizing for waking Lily up and asking how she is. She replies that she doesn't need a demon worrying about her, and since she's already acting normally, Akatsu assumes that the girl is really fine again, making Lily fume that the boy is still in her house. But at that moment, she looks at the table and sees 2 prepared dishes. To justify, Akatsu says he was hungry, so he took some things from Lily's fridge and cooked a recipe. Then she asks why he made a dish for her too, and he replies that it's just a way of thanking her for the bandage she put on his hand. Still maintaining her tough stance, Lily replies that it was just her obligation since she's Akatsu's owner, but the boy is not irritated by the provocation. On the contrary, he remains calm. After that, the two sit at the table, and despite his effort, Akatsu comments that this probably won't be better than the Italian pasta Lily made. Embarrassed, she replies that you never know and gets ready to test the classmates' culinary skills. Before the first forkful, she sees Akatsu struggling to hold the utensil because of his bandage but decides to ignore it and start eating. Akatsu mentions that Lily had a lot of bell peppers at home, one of the boys' favorite foods, and Lily explains that she just grabbed a bunch because it was on sale, so he wouldn't think she bought it just because of him. Still, he asks why she took so much, even if it was cheap, since she hates him. But Amane says she never said that and tells the boy to eat already. As they leave together, they observe the bright morning sun, and Lily thinks about how Akatsu looks radiant. Then he bids farewell to his friend but goes in the opposite direction of the school. When Lily questions if he doesn't happen to know the way to school, Akatsu replies that he decided to skip the first period. Lily asks if he thinks it's right, but the demon doesn't like the way she's talking, especially after saving her skin. Faced with that, Lily's pride takes over and she mocks the boy, thanking him sarcastically for the help but emphasizing that if she had gone from this world, Akatsu's collar would explode anyway. Akatsu loses it with this information, thinking about how much he's being dominated by this short girl, but immediately she warns that she was just messing with him. The demon gets even more frustrated and rants that you don't joke about something like that, but Lily has no shame, so she just responds that the devil is scared. Then she lowers her guard a bit, revealing that she changed the collar color as he had asked. The young man explodes with joy because he could finally splash around in the city's pools, so he shakes the girl's arms while inviting her to jump into the pool with him. On the other hand, Amane tells him to stop clowning around in the middle of the street, and at that moment, Yuka and Hirota pass by the two, staying the scene with dropped jaws. Next week, we'll have more of this anime as soon as the new episode is released, so go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the like button below to support this video. See you guys.